I'm Kodak.
And welcome to today's episode where we are going to be doing an overview of the VC history upbringings. Now, this is a bit of like a complicated subject because, where did the VC really start? That's always the number one question new people ask, or even like current members like, where's the evidence of all of this? When did the whole VC become a thing?
I would think that would be harder to really pin down, wouldn't it? Because there's so
Yes.
much folklore, there's so much what do you call it? Just media and writings and journalism and so on and so forth. Where would it start at? That's the question.
So now the VC, as we know how it is heavily inspired by vampire media, especially Vampire the Masquerade. I mean,
Mhm.
that specific tabletop game really inspired a lot of the VC structures, like houses, terminologies. I mean, like the oldest terms being like uh, courts, or let's say the old term for like the definition of having like thirst, like the beast. Like these are really old terminologies that heavily inspired the vampire community, and there has been a lot of debates on whether if the vampire community did inspire the VC. So, I find this subject to be very interesting as we did release a resource over the Project V timeline. I think we released that maybe about 2 months ago.
Mhm.
And it was very interesting to see what was coming out from, the VC and where it started. Now, the most common thoughts of where the VC really started was in 1965, the Dracula fan club. And there's been debate on that, or whether if it was a lot sooner because of Dion's Fortune's psychic self-defense book that he created in the 1930s, which heavily referenced psychic vampires. To what I remember, it's been a hot minute since I've read that book, but I did include that as kind of like a part of like, do we really consider this as evidence towards the VC, or where it was really inspired from, or is this just like, pure coincidence?
Hmm. But I don't think that would reference the VC directly, though.
Yeah.
That could be just someone who just feels mentally draining to be around, things like that. Because I know back in the 1930s, that was a big thing about like the hidden dangers of your neighbor being a vampire,
Mm-hmm.
psychically going into your dreams, and um, you know, astral. What is it?
Astral vampires.
Astral projecting into your dreams and stuff, and just calling you up, and like after you get done talking to them, you were just drained, things like that.
Yeah, and with that being like tied into it, like the 1930s isn't really even like the first like development of like, vampires or psychic vampires or anything like that. Like that heavily ties into uh I'm going to completely butcher the name here. Uh as I always do.
Uh-oh.
Um so within the hold on one second. Let me make sure I'm pronouncing this right. Uh, the Theosophist era. I believe they said Sophistian. I apologize if I like completely butchered that, but essentially around like the 1890s, there was a like document, I should say, by H.S. Olcott, And they heavily referenced the concept of astral vampires, like you said, coming into your dreams and like psychically manipulating you, which I feel like then kind of like translated towards psychic vampire. And then within the VC, you see Michelle Ballinger's Psychic Vampire Codex. So it's like really interesting to see like the snowball effect. But um, within like this article here, I do have like a little snippet of the reference. It says all of these are indications that our problem has to deal not with a dead but with a half dead person. In short, that the defunct is in catalepsy or some other form of suspended animation. The phantom which sucks the blood of the living appears to the eye, creates noisy and other phenomena in and out in and about houses, and disappears when the corpse is burnt, is an astral, not a physical shape, a body of sublimated, not one of concrete matter. In short, Diazer's Pothamus Phantom, the survivor of the living phantom, or doppelganger, or perisprit, as you call it. The vampire then is divisible into two factors, the inherent corpse and the projectable double, or astral body. It is therefore a proper subject of scientific inquiry. And this was like a reprint of like volume 12 of a publication by House Adair. This again, not the VC houses, but like this was like within the Theosophical Society. So very, very interesting. Like again, like, you know, we're not saying there's dead corpses around and then there's like astral projection happening. That's how we as psychic vampires are a thing. Like, no, no, no. This is just like how, you know, folklore and like the VC really is connected in some form, and that's just through storytelling.
Gotcha.
So,
So the,
go ahead.
the question is though, what timeline was that again? The late 1800s?
Yeah,
You said?
1890 of this reprint. Like this was a very
So
like common phenomenon that was talked about in like the 1800s, so like the Victorian era.
yeah. So when did the whole correct me if I'm wrong with this, but when in history was it made common to put like rocks or sticks in people's mouths when you buried them? Was that around the same time?
Um, there was many different forms of like how you would secure a vampire, especially when we are talking about the New World versus the Old World being Europe and New World being the US. uh, there was a lot of like scares about vampires and you know, of the sort, blood draining cases is what they would call it. uh, you know, in Europe, we had a lot of incidences, especially I would say around the 1500s, of just various vampire scares. But as for the US, it didn't really translate until late 1600s, early 1700s. Specifically, I would say a lot of it was in New Orleans, but it not necessarily had to do with there. Like it became like, you know, sort of like the you know, the Salem, Massachusetts witch trials. It was kind of like those kind of scares, like, oh, there was random, you know, quote unquote bodies that were like drained of blood. Then there was like some people they felt was like clinically insane, but in reality they were just kind of like normal people, like with normal conditions. Like they could have had like, I don't know, anxiety, or they could have had autism or something, right? Like they would like
Yeah.
punish people if they felt like you fell into those circumstances. And you know, when you look at vampire folklore, it's not just about the physical embodiment, like humanly anatomy wise, when it comes to vampires. Like, you know, the classical like pale skin, long teeth, probably long nails type of thing, cold skin. Actually, this is one of my
Sprinkles.
sprinkles, sparkles, sparkly vampires. One of my favorite iterations of the vampire. We have it is a spectrum. When you look at it in folklore, it is a spectrum. There is like the farther you go back, the harder it is to see what is the actual like physical characteristics of ones. It has evolved essentially. So, if you go back far enough, the concept of vampires really like mix with werewolves, then they mix with the fae, then witches, and it kind of like goes into that like aspect of like, vampires are those who are very like talented witches that were able to, transcend essentially. And I find that interesting. And one of them, one of them is a vampire pumpkin.
A what?
You heard me, a vampire pumpkin.
Where does that come into this?
So
Please tell me this. Right.
Oh, I will tell you. This was actually
now I want to know.
So I actually did write a mini piece on this. So I would say this was roughly around the same time, about I would say like pretty earlier on, probably like once again 1500s or so, but the actual publications of this didn't really come out until the early like 1900s, like 1930s, 1940s. So let me tell you about this vampire pumpkin. So
yes, please do.
There are many forms of vampires, and one of them being the vampire pumpkin. So this folklore really originated from like I would say it was debately, like I said, it was more so like a popular counterparts. There was three kinds of these sort of like jack-o'-lanterns is what we're getting at here. Their other counterparts were the vampire watermelon and the vampire squash. So, the legend really risen within like southern Europe with the Balkans. So, but these interviews weren't really done, like I said, until the 1930s in Serbia. But I believe, if I remember right, these studies were, I'm going to butcher it again. It is by T.P. Oh no. Vukanovic? Someone's going to really grill me on that. I apologize. It was part of their publications in the Journal of the Gypsy Lore Society that was dated. Actually, that specific part wasn't published until 1950s and 60s. So that's very interesting. Which, as you could tell, he released the study much later. Vampiric plants' origins really occurred, like I said, within gypsies based off of this publication. They believed only pumpkins and watermelons can be turned into vampires. Which I believe the establishment of like jack-o'-lanterns really like kind of tied into this. As like vampire pumpkins being the more popular like counterpart, unlike the vampire squash and the watermelon. Which, when I was writing this piece, I looked into like where did pumpkins specifically like originated from, and yes, it essentially like the pumpkin like couldn't have started like until like after the 16th century, as like pumpkins are native to America and did not make it to Europe until the late 1600s. So like you know, this, like I said, like folklore, like I wouldn't take everything about folklore as like fact. It's, you know, folklore, right?
The stories, yeah.
So it's just story. So like that was like a very interesting detail right there, that like considering like the publications, like it couldn't really happen until after the 1600s. But let me tell you how these pumpkins specifically had vampiric essence to them. So
Please tell me.
they had a transformation. They were able to transform. So the
Transform
legends,
into.
vampire pumpkins. Not, they are no longer regular pumpkins. They are vampire pumpkins. That is essentially what that means. So if you left them out under a full moon and you didn't harvest them within specifically 10 days, or you keep them around past Christmas, that is how the transformation begins. Now, after the transformation was complete, it was said that they had blood on them and they would growl. Tatsamir claims that they aren't really harmful, but they would suck your aura at night as the pumpkins wandered the night. So there's just little pumpkins with fangs walking
I,
around, growling.
I'm just trying to think of how they like how did they get around? They roll?
Did they roll? Maybe they
It's
grew
like little
legs.
pumpkin gangs or something.
Pumpkin gangs, like a pack of
It's like
pumpkins.
little ones that just start rolling around and stuff, growling at people.
Oh, and I did when I made this article. Like, I went down a rabbit hole of like the origins of the jack-o'-lantern, which if I remember, I wrote this article like way back. There was a lot of, I would say, consistency of the origins between the two. I feel like jack-o'-lanterns were more of a way to ward off evil, versus this is like a creature, evil creature,
Yeah.
but is harmless supposedly.
I
But
mean,
it's interesting.
yeah. That is we might have to do a whole episode on just vampire vegetables
Yes.
and
Ooh,
fruit.
we should do like a YouTube video of us carving pumpkins around Halloween, and we start like talking about the tales of the vampire pumpkin. That would be so fun. I would love that.
Oh, that'd be cool. That'd be
And
great.
you know, there's that. Then don't get me started on the vampire wagon wheel, where someone I think got crushed by wagons. It was very common for people to get ran over by their own wagon. So you know that kind of happened. I guess, you know, spiritual possession of a wagon involved to vampires. You know, it like I said, the concept of like vampires is so much like it's everywhere. There is no real start or beginning or end. Like it forever evolves. As you can tell, we got vampire pumpkins, we got vampire wagon wheels, we got, you know, we got Dracula, then we got, now we have Damon Salvatore and Edward Cullen. Like it really, like the media, like it goes from folklore to like media. Folklore inspiring, you know, media versus, you know, I would say the vampire community being under that, being completely influenced by both.
So here's a question then. From all this pumpkin stuff to wheels to what we kind of consider the modern VC, where does New Orleans come to this?
Ha, this one's an interesting one. Now, so if anyone isn't aware, there is a actual, like, you know, decently sized vampire community in New Orleans. There's various houses. There's the more notorious one being Nova, not me, but the New Orleans Vampire Association. They basically do charity events there, and they are a nonprofit organization. So I would say, you know, the origins of how vampires really became to be in New Orleans. Now, I don't know if any of you have heard about the Casket Girls. I would say it's one of the more popular stories that are told around there. In 1682, there was a French explorer of the name of, I'm going to butcher it, I'm so sorry. I believe it's pronounced De La Salle? De La
Yep, that
Salle?
sounds about right.
Okay. Well, would you know? Would you know?
I mean, I don't speak French, but I'm just saying. It sounds right.
De La Salle. We'll go with that. This was about 1682, so late 1600s. He pretty much explored the Mississippi River and then came down towards New Orleans. And once he found New Orleans, he pretty much just kicked out the current residents that were living there and was saying, like, yes, we claim this land for, like, one of the kings. I couldn't tell you which king it was. My history is not that good. But by the 1700s, the French colonies started coming to New Orleans. And this is where, the common terminologies of old world versus new world, uh, as they were moving in, it was, there was not a lot there. So they pretty much had to build everything from the ground up. And, because of that, there was a lot of men there, right, working while the women stayed, back in the old world. So they started importing women to this region. Now, they started coming in ships, just trying to, pretty much start matchmaking people. Like, oh, you and you go together. You two will marry, have kids, populate the area. As weird as that sounds, that's just how it was back then. Now, this is where the casket girls enters the scene. They arrive on a ship and you can see them carrying caskets. Now, there was a bit of a translation issue when it came to this specific legend. Back then, to my knowledge, casket meant briefcase or a trunk. Something that you pretty much carry your supplies or goods in. At this time, they were like really big. They weren't like the usual briefcases that you see like nowadays, where it's like a duffel bag that you could just fit in a tiny little storage closet. No. These are like huge. But this was translated a bit odd to casket, which I believe pretty much means coffin. So they, when they showed up, people thought they were odd. They had very pale skin, very beautiful, dark hair. To what I remember, they were quiet. So I believe they were staying in the nun quarters. They aren't called the nun quarters. I just don't know what they're called. The covenants? I don't know. But it's a house full of nuns. It's a religious space, and like you can go there to like pretty much stay there for a little bit. Well, they stayed there in the attic area. Well, one day when the girls were gone, the nuns were snooping through their stuff, went to open the quote unquote caskets. There was nothing there. Then this kind of started the whole panic, as right around that time, bodies started dropping, drained of blood. So they immediately assume, oh, vampires have imported from Europe to the US in New Orleans. So there was a pretty massive scare around that time that has, greatly impacted New Orleans to this day. Like, as you could see, like, New Orleans is, like, it's very popping with vampires. And I wouldn't say specifically just the VC, but just like, the folklore types of vampires or media vampires. There's a lot of like Vampire Diaries esque type of like memorabilia there. I believe there's like a random bench that has it's either Damon Salvatore's like name written on it, or it's Klaus, but it's one of those. So like we got media integration there. Then you got like other legends. Apparently there was like completely separate incidences, like Lafayette or the French quarters having vampires. Especially right now, like the concepts of vampires are even more popping on social media lately within the New Orleans area. So as you can see, this is like kind of becoming like a tourist attraction. It always has been. You know, there's a vampire cafe which like VC members do frequent there. There's a lot of like touristy like vampire themed areas. And this is like one of the greatest spots that you could be as a vampire. The interesting enough, there is a New Orleans or Louisiana law that is towards vampires, which is basically uh the harvesting and usage of blood for ritualistic practices. They
So it's
have a
good for
law.
consumption,
Mhm.
but not for sacrifice or for religious
Ritualistic.
purposes, basically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, essentially that's what that's for. And that's interesting that they have a law for that. And it's very like vampire driven there. So why not the vampire community feel welcomed enough to really just hold base camp there, right? There's like
Yeah.
various communities that are very well welcomed there, and they do lean into the touristy aspect of it. They do profit from this in some way or another. Like it's very, it's very cool.
I may have to take a trip down there.
Yeah, yeah. I was supposed to go
Have you ever
down
been?
there. No, I was supposed to go down there actually like a couple days ago, but that did not happen. But it's very
Gotcha.
cool.
I'm gonna try
I
and go
would
down there during in October.
there is an event, a VC event happening in October, if I remember correctly. There's I think there's like a couple panels that specifically like some VC members will be at. So like a lot of people will be there.
Hmm.
I couldn't tell you what
Good to
the
know.
event is called. I'll probably remember it after this podcast was filmed, but like there is stuff happening in October.
Check the comments if she remembers.
Right? Check the
She'll add
comments.
it. She'll add it.
It will
Or
be
someone will
there.
know.
Yeah, probably someone will comment it before I do. So, you know, the reason why, as you can see, why is it so hard to know when this all really started? This is if we were to extract the concept of folklore and vampire media and where like it inspires the VC or not. I previously mentioned about the Dracula fan club in 1965. That is the more foundational proof, which I do have that newspaper clipping on the Project V website. It's under the vampire anthology section. And there you can pretty much find the 1999 publication of the Dracula fan club. And it essentially was just saying there was like 2,000 members that reached out to her interested in her club, and they claimed to be like self-proclaimed vampires. So there is that in writing and newspaper. Now, do we think like all 2,000 of them were authentically like identifying as such before the VC really came together in the 80s and 90s? No, but I would say some. I think the concept of self identifying as a vampire is nothing new, especially in 1965. Definitely a
Especially
big
nowadays.
possibility. Especially nowadays. Like, I think it's so much more, like, cool to identify as such. We're the cool kids.
No.
No, we're not.
No.
But
We suffer daily.
we suffer daily. But I mean, that's what outsiders see us as. I mean, especially with Project V, we get a lot of people in the lobby and we're like, well, we just joined because we think vampires are cool. But they don't exactly know what it's like. You know,
Yep.
they are fans of the vampire media interpretations or the folklore. Like they don't really understand like, oh, these are like it's so much more deeper than that. Like, oh, we're actually human and some of us have extra needs, right? So
Yep.
they get a little bit disappointed, I feel like. But anyways, so you would think, considering with all this evolution within the VC, especially with the internet and how far we've come, you would think there would be a lot more better documentation of the VC and the past events and, the history. No, no, there is
Nope.
not. Now, there are, two reasons for this because, back then, there wasn't a lot of resources to be able to do such preservation. But it was also very much within the code of conduct within a lot of vampire spaces around, like, say, from 70s, 80s, and 90s, right? Secrecy was a very serious thing. You only let specific people in within your spaces. You would vet, outsiders like black swans and donors. You would host these events, you couldn't record them, you couldn't document them, type of thing. Like some of these spaces really took it seriously. And I would say this concept was really dropped within the 2000s, right?
Yeah.
Now, Michelle
Especially when
Ballinger,
forms came out.
yes, forums, and then Facebook, and then we got into random media representation, like documentaries, like National Geographic. The VC was in that, and now we have YouTube and vampires dancing on TikTok. Very fun stuff, but
No, not
know,
dancing.
Father Sebastian and I would say Michelle Ballinger have really good preservation with some of their VC stuff pertaining to specifically their groups. I think I don't know, they might have documentations of other communities, but there is a YouTube video of Michelle Ballinger talking about their collection of the zines days. Essentially they were like little pamphlets, little event pamphlets, or maybe blurbs of like some form of like VC education. They have like a decent collection of it. I do recommend everyone to go check it out, go look at it. It's very cool. They did have like a shadow dance zine there, so it's very cool. um Now, I what do you think so far, Kodak? With everything I have said so far.
I mean, honestly, it just sounds like up until technology came around, it's really hard to pin down where the actual translation of folklore to VC came from.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, is what it seems like. With that, it's just one of those things that you kind of have to dig through and hope there's an old form still up that you can access. Hope that the information hasn't been lost. Hopefully, the Wayback Machine might have a random copy of it somewhere,
Yeah.
because sometimes it does have that. Outside of that, it just seems we kind of have the history that we have now, and we just need to start preserving it for
Mm-hmm.
future generations.
Yes.
That way they know, hey, this happened, that happened, this person has done this or has organized this for this. It's just a big web of string and sticky notes and posters and thumbtacks.
That
And
is
you're going crazy.
that is literally how I felt when I made the Project V Vampire Community Timeline. That's literally how I felt.
I believe it. I don't need sleep. I need answers.
I need answers. What happened in 1965 with the Dracula fan club? Where'd it come from? Who are these vampires? Where'd they come from? Was there more
So is that still
information?
around or?
No.
Oh, it's not.
No.
Oh,
No, 1965. Are you kidding me? That poor woman. She was elderly. Yes. So
I mean,
I don't.
maybe she passed it on. Who knows?
Yeah, you're right. Maybe.
It happens. I don't
Probably.
know.
Probably not.
We might have to do a video podcast and we might have to go to New Orleans and start like walking around and talking to people.
Right. On this episode, we have this random bystander here. Have you seen vampires?
Do you know what they look like? Do you know where they reside?
Are they in the French quarters? If so, who are they?
Are they in the nuns' quarters? Or are they carrying caskets?
Do you say caskets?
Or trunks? Which one is it? Good say, because wording does matter here. Wording does matter.
What does matter? Oh my goodness. Have you seen Klaus? If so, do you have his number? I'm very fond of Klaus, actually.
Do you have Klaus's pigeon? I would love to send him a message.
Oh my god.
Good old pigeon days. New pigeon, who this?
New pigeon, who's this? That's wild. Oh my god.
I mean, hey, it might happen again sometime because they still use pigeons to send messages back and forth. Down there, I have no idea, but I know in general there are some places that still do it.
Why?
Why not?
Well, I guess so. Why not?
I mean, a little bit. I mean, off a side topic. I mean, they still do pigeon racing too.
What?
Yeah, it's an actual thing.
Oh. Do you just throw them in the air and hope they go one direction?
A little context about it. So, pigeon racing, people have like tens of 20s of pigeons, and they train them at their place where they live at. So they could have cages at their home, they could have cages at certain areas, things like that. And once a year, what they do is they gather up all these pigeons and they like truck them like hundreds of miles away. And then they all get released at the same time. So the idea of it is to see how fast your pigeon can go from point A to point B. And that's it. And I think on average, about 60 to 80% of them don't come back.
Oh!
So the ones that do come back, now that's not saying they're dying. That's just saying that they just never came back.
Oh, okay.
Because of like whatever reasons. Like, I know pigeons will use the sun and the Earth's polarity to try to figure out where they're going and where they've been. So that could be off. Things like that can happen. It's a lot.
Oh god.
But yeah, it's still a thing.
Interesting.
Random.
You know, it'd be interesting, if the VC started delivering mail by pigeons. Like,
Right?
make haste! This vampire community is causing issue. We need to cancel.
We need to have a meeting now.
Meeting now by pigeon mail.
A month later, everyone finally shows up.
Oh, I see you got the pigeon. Do you fancy the delivery service? Oh man.
That would be very interesting.
Wow. You learned so
Vampiric
much.
pigeons.
Vampiric pigeons. You learned so much on this podcast, guys. It is never a dull moment here.
I mean, who knows? They may not have gotten this far yet. We'll have to find out.
Ooh, maybe we should
I hope they did, though.
Our delivery series. The VC did have their own phone line specifically for the vamps in New York to communicate. So maybe Project V should just start a pigeon delivery service to talk about VC news or something.
I mean, you could do a mail newsletter.
Yeah.
That is possible.
Or more realistically, yeah, I think that would be fun. I would just have to get one of those, what are they called? It's like a specific place you put packages in that's not at your house.
Oh, a P.O. box?
Yes, that. I would need to do that. That would be fun.
Yeah, we would.
You know what?
We might have to.
Yeah, you know what? Let him cook. Yeah.
We might have to open up a PO box now for
Yes.
Project V.
Come send me random bullshit and I'll review them on the YouTube channel. Just don't send me weird shit, please. Don't send me a vial of your blood asking me to drink it on camera. That'd be weird. I've actually
Don't
heard.
send us steaks.
Don't send us steaks.
It's not going to work. Now, the steak I'm talking about, you can send though, is from a cow.
Yes.
That you can send.
That.
But
yes.
wooden steaks, no.
No.
Anyone can die from those.
Yes.
Not just us.
Though I would like a medium rare steak right now. I think that'd be great.
That does sound good.
Literally, if it's not mooing, I don't want it. Take it back.
I was going to say it better start moving right off the bone. Oh, it's done.
I'm gonna feel so bad if there's a vegan watching. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for all our vulgarness.
You are apologize for the inconvenience of these hosts. They will be replaced next podcast.
They will be canceled and replaced by somebody. Oh my gosh. Well, you are watching vampires. I don't know what you expect. There is blood involved, yes.
There can be blood involved. There can be energy involved. Who knows?
That is true. That is true. I'm trying to think. Was that it? Oh no, the VC timeline that I created. I subtly mentioned earlier, but like
at least you can edit this, so it's fine.
I think we're too.
But yeah, the VC timeline was next.
Yes.
Your work on the VC timeline. You did start with that.
Yes.
And then you kind of just went off from there.
Yeah, that sounds like something I would do. Very classic Nova of me.
Well, here's an idea too. So we could stop where we realize we're going too far, and then we can bring that back in for the next episode, which gives us a more broader like timeline of like, hey, we created this. This is kind of like an overview about like what we've tracked so far, how the timeline adds up. You know, these are the events that have brought us to where we are today, so on and so forth.
Ooh, yes.
Yeah.
I do like that. But
we can do that next time.
Yes. Self-promo. Look at the timeline on Project V website. Do it. Do it now.
Do it. Do it now.
Do it.
Do it.
Just
you won't do it. Do it.
You won't do it.
Just do it. Do it.
We're too overly caffeinated right now. We're like sleep deprived.
We need unlimited power. Do it.
We need the website views. Alrighty. I think this is a good stopping point. I think we have rambled enough. Our conclusion is yes.
I think so.
Folklore and vampire media is very much intertwined within the VC. There is a lot of inspiration. We don't know. We're at this stage of the VC, like, you know, newer media, like publications. It could be inspired by the VC. It could be not. We will never know.
Who knows?
Yes.
Maybe some horrible shenanigans might pop up in the media at some point, and then we'll all just be like, "Yep, that sounds about right."
Yep. Project V podcast called that out.
Yep. 2 years ago.
2 years ago. You know,
but this podcast is still going.
Yeah, if the podcast's still going, there's not a lot of VC podcasts that are going. We might be the only one right now. We aren't like the first one. No, we're not the first one. But I think we might be one of the only ones that are running right now. Maybe two.
Well, I guess we'll have to keep it going until we have to stop it for whatever reason. I don't know.
Hopefully it doesn't come to that.